When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Samsung big screen we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Time for that upgrade to an HD 3D web-enabled Samsung TV. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Hi, I'm John Madison. Welcome to this special edition of Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno, Comcast Channel 187 and 43.6. This morning we're coming to you from the showroom floor at Ventura TV, but we're on tape. It's a special program, so no phone calls. We'll specifically be talking about the situation in Syria. We're going to be back with our special guest, a terrorism expert, in just a moment. Back here on the showroom floor at Ventura TV, and today is a special program. Sorry about that, no phone calls. This show is on tape on MeTV Fresno and Comcast Channel 187. Very important topic today because we're talking about the goings-on in Syria and what this country is about to do or maybe not do, and that is go to war, bomb Damascus. Are we going to do it or are we not going to do it? What is Congress and the U.S. Senate going to say when they vote yes or no? And if they vote no, what will the President of the United States do? Will he go in anyway and send a message? I want to take you to the videotape because this is a civil war in Syria, of course, part of the Middle East that's been going on for more than a decade, maybe 12 years, perhaps a dozen years, I'm not sure, but it's been a long time. So there are many different factions that are involved here. Just keep that in mind. You've got Hezbollah, you've got Al-Qaeda. More than 100,000 people have been killed during this civil war, including 1,400 women and children recently, that many in our U.S. government say this was a chemical attack that came from the regime. Bashar Assad, he is the president of Syria that actually inflicted this pain and this death on these women and children by using chemical weapons. But where is the proof? Some in Congress, some of the U.S. Senate, some in the military, and some here in this country, the American people like you and me, want to know where is the proof. The influence, don't forget, is coming from Iran and Russia and perhaps some other countries. We're going to talk to our expert here in the studio now. Live is Dan Payne. He is a terrorism expert. Again, no phone calls, but we're going to talk about the specifics in Syria, who's fighting, why are they fighting, what are the factions involved, what's at stake here, and what other countries are influencing Syria in this situation. We're going to be back with our special program here, Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno on Comcast Channel 187 and 43.6 in a moment.
1 Adam 12.
This is Adam 12. It stars Martin Milner as Officer Pete Malloy, Kent McCord as Officer Jim Reed.
1 Adam 12, roger.
This black and white patrol car has an overhead valve V8 engine. It develops 325 horsepower at 4,800 RPMs. It accelerates from 0 to 60 in 7 seconds. It has a top speed of 120 miles an hour. The automobile has 2 shotgun racks, one attached to the bottom portion of the front seat, one in the vehicle trunk.
You want me to drive?
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
Back here with our special show here on Connect with Me, MeTV Fresno. Sorry, no phone calls. We've got a special guest in the studio talking about the Syria situation, and it is getting serious. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty. The president, of course, stuck between a rock and a hard place, many people think. Dan Payne is our guest today. Dan, good to see you.
Good to be back, John. Thank you.
And I called you a terrorism expert, and that's exactly what you are.
Correct.
Right. You know what's going on in Syria.
Correct.
And am I correct to characterize the President of the United States between a rock and a hard place? Because, when was it, last year? He said, if chemical weapons are used, that's where we draw the line.
Correct.
What do you think?
Well, unfortunately, we've kind of lost the precedence of doing any kind of an action towards any type of chemical warfare. There are a lot of chemical warfare activity that has happened in the Middle East that we have not done anything about. So we don't really have any precedence of saying there has never been a chemical warfare incident that we didn't get involved and do something. We've already kind of gotten out of that. So it's a comment that the president made. It's a comment that the president feels that he has to back up. Unfortunately, a lot of this Congress and some in Senate don't feel the same way.
Why? Because there's the lack of proof at this point?
I think lack of proof is one thing. I think what is a large contributor to them not wanting to get involved is we don't have a real plan. We don't have a goal. We don't have any kind of contingency plan. I can tell you for a fact that there is over a battalion of Marines that are right offshore right now, and we're making this claim that we're not going to have boots on the ground. Why do we have an amphibious Marine unit waiting offshore right now?
Just in case.
Exactly, and that's the problem. The Senate and Congress know by now that we have a lot of just in case. If anything goes to the left or right on this plan, whatever the plan is going to be, things change. Our allies change. A lot of that stuff changes. And a lot of the senior military generals and colonels and all that I have personally spoken with in the last week or so are very concerned about that, because they're saying...
You're talking about former generals, right?
No, I'm talking about active duty.
Active duty generals, but they can't openly come out and criticize the president or disagree with anything, because then they're out, right?
Well, that's what ends up happening, but a lot of them have openly disagreed, and a lot of times those generals are forced to resign. But they're talking about, hundreds of thousands of lives and families being affected by this, and they're very concerned. Motivation is really low within the troops right now because they feel that we don't have a real direction in going into this.
So why don't we have a direction? Hasn't the president been very vague on this? Do we take Assad out? Do we have a regime change, or do we just send a message and flicker a few bombs down on him?
Well, see, that's the problem. A lot of generals are saying, if we're going to do something, then let's do something.
There's no defined plan.
There is no defined plan right now. One of the terms that the general used to me was, he feels like our commander-in-chief is using Kentucky windage, which is sticking, wetting your fingers, sticking it in the air and seeing what way the wind is blowing as to whether we're going to attack, whether it's popular, whether it's not popular. The problem with that is, what are we doing? What are we saying? A lot of the individuals, the senior military officials are saying, okay, so there was 1,400 innocent civilians killed.
Women and children.
Women and children. So we're going to say we don't like that. So we're going to send bombs from ships, and more are going to be killed. And we're going to say we don't like the fact that you killed 1,400 women and children, but then we did the same thing when we lobbed bombs back over. There isn't anything very specific.
I want to show our audience the video from those bodies that were discovered and videotaped eventually and shown to the world. 1,400 women and children, up to 400 to 600 children killed in this chemical attack. At least that's what our government is saying. But I want to warn you first, the video is very disturbing. So be careful if you have women and children in the room right now and watching this. But let's put that up on the screen now. I've done a little bit of a disclaimer here. There is some of the video, Dan, right now, and here's the situation. People at home looking at this, and it's been seen all over the world. It's very disturbing to look at. I don't care how many times you've seen it. So there might be some that might say, look, we can't stand by and let this happen. What should we do in that case?
What are we trying to solve? Let's say there's an A team and a B team, because it's a civil war going on out there. The chemical attack is done by the A team. So the United States and the United Nations come in and we take out the A team. The remainder is a B team with still access to chemical warfare weapons. Our concern is chemical warfare weapons and the fact that they're being used. Our plan does not have anything to do with the elimination of chemical warfare weapons. Just today, Putin and others are saying, let's get the Syrians to agree to turn the chemical warfare weapons over to a United Nation force,
right?
And
give them 45 days, right?
Sure.
Yeah, give them 45 days. That's what two senators, U.S. senators, suggested. But the Obama administration is saying, you know, that's just not good enough,
right,
at this point. Because,
so see,
how are we going to know if they come clean?
Right. Well, how are we going to know that when we take out the aggressors, that the others are not going to try to use these chemical warfare weapons? The problem is they still exist, and that is our concern. That is our issue.
When you look at that video right there, what are you seeing? Are you seeing a chemical weapons attack on these people? Is that how they died from what you've seen? I know you haven't been there,
right,
but just from looking at the video, did they die from a chemical attack?
Yeah, these are, there's others that are, other pictures that show more of the reddish eyes, the bulging face, that type, and they're not showing some of those pictures, but that is normally the case in a chemical attack.
So it's your belief this was a chemical attack?
It is. It is my belief that it is. I am a veteran of both the Desert Storm and Iraqi wars. I am convinced, there's no doubt in my mind, that the chemical weapons that Saddam used were hidden in Syria. We have satellite pictures of convoys and
the ones that he used on the Kurds in northern Iraq.
Correct.
All right. Okay, we're talking to Dan Payne. He is a terrorism expert. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to foreign policy, what goes on in the Middle East, and chemical weapons and the use of warfare. He has an opinion about this. Sorry, no phone calls today. I apologize. I know this is a riveting topic and you'd like to chime in on this, but at this point, this is a tape program, and we're going to be back with more of Connect with me and Dan Payne in just a moment.
Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're the save energy, save time, save money place. The Energy Star qualified #1 rated high efficiency Cabrio from Whirlpool Place. You heard right. Right now, save big on select Whirlpool Cabrio laundry pairs and pay no interest when paid in full within 6 months. At the hometown low price, think outside the big box place. Since 1951, Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're working hard to be your place.
And of course, we just saw that disturbing video, some of those bodies discovered just a few weeks ago in Syria. Many believe this was a chemical attack, killing many women and children. Now, you recently, just last week, spoke to Marine Corps headquarters in Washington, D.C. You mentioned that. And do they feel, the people that you spoke to, do they feel this was a chemical attack?
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Do they have proof of that, or?
They believe so, yes.
Yeah.
That there is proof that it was chemical warfare. Let me, I don't want to seem very cold and crass and that I have no feelings on this. I do. But as a armed forces, it is very important for our leaders in the armed forces and the troops to have direction, to know what their mission is. They are forever drilled accomplishment of the mission. We don't have a mission. We don't know what the mission is. Maybe if the commander-in-chief or the administration or the secretary or whatever would say, this is what we're striving for. We are striving to eliminate the use of chemical warfare, to consolidate all the weapons and remove them from Syria and their use. Maybe if they said something like that, it would give us some direction.
Do you think some of the generals, maybe the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, are they afraid to offer their opinion on a defined plan to the president, or not?
I think they're careful right now. If you look at the very beginning and look at the boldness that John Kerry had, look at the boldness that President Obama had, they were very direct and deliberate with the comments that they made about we weren't going to tolerate that we were going to get involved. It's not going to go without any kind of retribution. And little by little, they've had to back down and back down and back down. And now it's we might not. If we do, there might be a maybe. We don't have any clear direction at this point.
I want to get into this issue of proof because yesterday on this program, on Monday, we talked to Dennis Hart, and he said that he's a media expert, of course, but you're a military expert. Mm-hmm. And I want to get into your background in just a second here, but I want to get into this issue of proof. And Dennis was kind of saying, look, the American people have had enough of this from Vietnam, from the George W. Bush era with Iraq and Afghanistan. They told us they had proof. George Tenet, former CIA director, George Bush said, WMD, Saddam had them. So the American people at this point, he said, are a little bit leery of that and don't have the trust in our government that they're telling us the truth. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. And in fact, there was a story that broke out this morning that said that that there is an opinion going around of an individual asking Congress to demand that the president turn over the documents because they're being embellished as we speak to further substantiate the claim that...
Should he do that?
I believe he should. I think
Congress and the U.S. Senate demand those documents?
I believe they should, absolutely.
Should they release them to the American public?
I don't think that needs to be done, no.
No. Because a lot of that is top secret.
Correct.
Right. But to a certain extent, you've got to release something to the public to give them something to grab onto, to say, okay, this time they're really not lying to us.
And you know, and I'm going to make another comment here that's probably going to be a little disturbing, but there was a congressman who was being interviewed who said that there was a 4-star general who deliberately lied to his face when he asked him questions about this, and the general lied to his face.
To the president's face?
To the congressman's face.
Oh, to the congressman's face. Okay.
And the congressman said he was first very offended, but then understood afterwards that there is a line of security, communication security, and he felt that the general was trying to protect
this country's interest.
Right. Yeah. So what are we really hearing, John? That's the issue. What do you feel? Does the American people feel that the information they're getting is accurate, even from our own people?
How do you determine if Assad is responsible for this or not, or maybe the other side, maybe the rebels?
I think at this point, even getting information from the British, from the Italians, from the French, even Putin, any information that we can gather from any of the other countries would help substantiate and help.
I'm not sure Russia is going to be on the up and up on this.
Well, you know.
I mean, if Assad is guilty, let's say, I'm not saying he is, but if he is, I'm not sure Russia's going to come clean on that.
No,
because they back him.
Right, although they're in favor of what our 2 senators requested of
suggested,
of confiscating the weapons and giving them to a United Nations type deal. Putin, promoted that as well, and I'm by no means a follower or an advocate of Putin, but these are the people that we're going to be going against. That's what I was saying. Our allies shift constantly with whatever goes.
Minute by minute.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Before we go to break, get into your background. I mentioned you're a terrorism expert. Explain why.
I was involved. I did 23 years in the Marine Corps. I started out as an enlisted, became an officer in the Marine Corps. I was involved in a lot of the strategic planning in combat for Desert Storm, for Iraq, implementing a lot of the new technology that we have in the Marine Corps now.
Bomb type
the smart
stuff.
bomb. Yeah. I was also an expert in electrical countermeasures.
And counterterrorism.
And counterterrorism. So that was my function in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, what a background. Incredible stuff. I'll bet there's a lot of things you can't tell us, too.
I don't even tell my family.
Darn.
Yeah.
All right, Dan Payne is our guest here, a terrorism expert, former military guy, a Marine, a great guy. He knows the inside about what's going on. There's some he can say, and of course a lot he can't say. No phone calls today. A special edition talking about Syria. Back in just a moment.
Remember me?
After practicing law, Raymond Berg fought crime.
You have the right to an attorney.
As a hard-boiled detective on wheels,
Ain't it the truth?
his name is Ironside.
Perhaps you wouldn't mind saying it again.
His name is Ironside.
All right, now you've said it.
Nothing slows him down.
I want to see this one firsthand.
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
Well, what are we waiting for?
Now, just keep in mind that this show is airing in the morning, of course, Tuesday morning at 10:30, and the President of the United States has not spoken yet on this issue, although he is supposed to address the country later on Tuesday, and by Tuesday night at 7:30, when this thing replays, we will have already known what he has said. But at the moment, at this taping, at this very moment, we don't know yet what President Obama has to say. However, yesterday morning, somehow, some way, with his connections, Charlie Rose of CBS News somehow got into Syria, and he spoke to President Assad about his retaliation if, in fact, there is a U.S. strike in Syria.
Will there be attacks against American bases in the Middle East if there's an airstrike?
You should expect everything. You should expect everything. Not necessarily through the government. It's not only the governments are not the only player in this region. You have different parties, you have different factions, you have different ideology. You have everything in this region now. So you have to expect that.
Tell me what you mean by expect everything.
Expect every action.
Including chemical warfare?
That depends if the rebels or the terrorists in this region or any other group have it. It could happen, I don't know. I'm not fortune teller to tell you what's going to happen.
But we'd like to know more, and I think the President would like to know more, American people would like to know, if there's an attack, what might be the repercussions and who might be engaged in those repercussions.
Before the 11th of September, in my discussions with many officials in the United States, some of them are congressmen, I used to say that don't deal with the terrorists as playing games. It's a different story. You're going to pay the price if you're not wise in dealing with the terrorists. So nobody expects, we said there's going to be a repercussion of the mistaken way of dealing with it, of treating the terrorism. But nobody expected 11th of September. So you cannot expect, it's difficult for anyone to tell you what's going to happen. It's an area where everything is on the brink of explosion. You have to expect everything.
President Assad talking with Charlie Rose of CBS yesterday morning, of course. Now, you've seen guys like this before. What did you notice from his body language, number one, and from the words that he spoke?
That, one, he was very controlled. There wasn't a lot of facial changes in his expression. He didn't get flustered. This was very, very strategic, very planned.
Almost
what he was
scripted,
almost scripted, correct. Probably said it over and over again. Always got back to what he wanted to say, not necessarily what Rose wanted him to say. But he makes some valid points. Right now everything's happening in Syria. When we get involved, we just invited them into the United States or anything that we are a part of. When we make that attack to Syria, if we do, we have just declared war. It's no different than when the World Trade Center was bombed. We looked at that.
Can we expect another attack on us?
I would imagine so.
And so do you believe what President Assad said?
Absolutely.
Promising retaliation,
right,
possibly with chemical weapons,
sure,
and anything, he said anything is on the table.
That's right.
Everything is on,
that's
everything.
Right.
You believe him?
I absolutely do.
So does that mean nuclear too?
I don't know about the capabilities of who he has on his side of using nukes.
But when he said everything, right, I mean, that includes nukes.
Sure, it does. Yes, it does.
My God.
But again, that was my comment in the beginning. Who are his allies, who are ours? And when we lob our bombs over there, what allies do we have that are going to stick with us? Or
is Russia going to be on our side or no?
I think to an extent, it's possible that we can depend on them to either stay out of it or remain neutral, or insist again that these weapons be confiscated.
Before we run out of time, the factions over there that are involved, explain them. You know them well.
Right. We have Sunnis, we have Hezbollah. Well, Hezbollah brings in a lot of different factions.
And what side are they on? Are they on the Assad side or the rebel side?
I believe that they're more on the Assad side.
Both the Sunnis and the Hezbollah.
Right. And there's a tribe there that has also been very active, and I'm just drawing a blank.
That's
It starts with an A, but they're very active as well. And
now,
again,
the rebels, who's on their side? Is it Al Qaeda?
Well, there's Al Qaeda, but then Al Qaeda comes with a long list of supporters as well. But so
it's
it is so
complex.
convoluted. It is so you can't say these guys are constantly going to stay with these guys and these guys are constantly going to stay.
It's changing.
It is.
And so what are they fighting about the last dozen years?
That's the problem.
Nobody knows?
We don't have a finger on the pulse. Wow. And what are we going to solve? What is our main objective?
Wow.
And what is going to be the end result?
Wow.
But remember the saying they have there. It's me and my brother against my cousin, me and my cousin against the world. That's what they live by.
I don't mean to laugh. It's a serious situation.
It is.
But I mean, that's the way it goes. Before we go, too, I do want to play this soundbite with Rush Limbaugh. He's against a strike in Syria. Listen.
McCain and Boehner are on board for it. Boehner just came out of the White House. Well, whatever the president wants. Wall Street Journal, Kimberly Strassel. Give me the full quote. No, I still haven't got to the primary point. I'm setting it up. Sit tight, folks. Don't go anywhere. You can't afford to miss this. Full quote from Kimberly Strassel, Wall Street Journal. The challenge for Republicans. I hope you're sitting down here. It's the Wall Street Journal, not the New York Times. The challenge for Republicans is to do just that, to remember, no matter how painful, that this is not a vote about the president or his machinations. The only question before Republicans is this: will they send a message to the world's despots that America will not tolerate the use of weapons of mass destruction? If they will not send that message, they risk complicity in this president's failed foreign policy.
Reaction? We've got about a minute left.
I think what he's saying is very correct. What are we doing? But in the last decade, we've already stepped aside during some chemical attacks. So we're already out of a precedence where every chemical attack is answered by the U.S.
I guess the message today from you and everybody else, lest we forget Vietnam and the last war in Iraq and Afghanistan. Prove it to us.
Correct.
Prove it.
Correct.
Right? How difficult is that?
It's at this point, it's almost impossible. And even if they came up with the proof, are we going to believe it at this point? We've been manipulated and lied to so much in the past. I don't even know we would know the truth if the truth was in our face.
30 seconds left. Iran and Russia, how big an influence do they have on Syria and Assad?
Tremendous. And there's probably some alliances going on that we're not even fully aware of.
And does the President of the United States, President Obama, look weak in this situation right now?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
He does?
Yes, he does.
Ooh, and that's not a good sign.
And even to our own military at this time.
My goodness. Dan Payne, short notice, thank you for coming in.
Absolutely.
All right, take care, and we'll see you again, all right?
I hope so.
All right, Dan Payne, our terrorism expert here on Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno. That's going to do it for us. Sorry about the no phone calls, but we'll get you next time. We're going to be back with another edition of Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno tomorrow.
from the beginning. This is the city, Los Angeles, California. My name's Friday. I carry a badge. Police officers.
Now on Xfinity 187.
When you're looking for KitchenAid innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, we'll help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified KitchenAid appliances save you energy and money, and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.